Hello and welcome into the penultimate episode of the Three Fever Point After podcast for the year. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Anderson, joined as always by Notre Dame fan.
That's right.
Bossier offensive coordinator, Jeff Harper. Just looks good in green, right?
Yeah, man.
I'm
going to wear the Notre Dame stuff as long as we're winning.
Gotta love that. You gotta love the excitement when your team's doing well.
Yeah, I've done before.
It's good stuff. And Coach, you're going to also be co-host of the Fever this week. We were just talking about that, so we're excited to have you.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we'll close the year. So this Friday will be our final episode, our final hour-long episode of the year. The Fever continues basically year-round at this point.
Yeah.
But it is that week, semifinals week. Not as many teams as we thought we might have here.
Well, I mean, that's why you play the game, right?
Right.
And we talked about it last week. We lined out kind of what would happen, if things didn't go right in some of those ball games, and it seemed to. I mean, there was a few that shocked me.
Right.
I was kind of shocked by the outcome of Airline Destrehan and then North DeSoto,
Right.
And Cecilia. So, teams had great years, and now we're down to 4 local teams. It looks like. It's big for them.
Yeah, for sure. And, I guess just going back to those games last week, since we don't have too much to break down in terms of brackets now, with Airline, we'll start there with Sydney covering that game for us. And she kind of said it was that recipe that we talked about. They can't turn the ball over.
Yep.
2 of them go for touchdowns.
Yep.
So rare from Ben Taylor. We
Yep.
hadn't seen it all year. It happened at the worst possible time.
So I turned the game on. It was my family's Thanksgiving, so I couldn't make the game. So we turned it on, live stream, put it on the TV.
Right.
And some of the things that Destrehan did defensively, they obviously have done their homework. They were playing over-under defense to Darby's side, where they had, Evangel back when Evangel was in the same district, they'd take their outside linebacker, play him over the top, right there and press, and then they'd put the corner over the top. So it was 2 for 1. And I turned the film on, and there it is. I mean, that's what they're doing. And then they're getting pressure, and the things that Airline does well, they took that away. And Airline still was in the ball game.
Right.
I mean, Ben still had ridiculous numbers. I just hate it for him to have such an incredible high school career. I watched it as it started when they were really bad, and he was having to start as a freshman. And then when Coach Scoggin got there, just things took off. And so no kid wants to walk off the field their last game and have a season that they've had and it end the way that it ended. And so that's the hardest part, of this sport, and it teaches so many life lessons. And so it happens to everybody. Your career comes to an end, and you're going to always remember that last game. And so I hate it that they didn't pull it out. I was really hoping they would do it, but Destrehan's got a good ball club, and they're playing really good right now. And so Ruston's got their hands full this week.
Yep, and we'll get back to that matchup in just a minute. I did want to talk about North DeSoto. I was shocked by that game. It seemed like they were kind of out of it for the majority of the game. It was it was almost over at half.
Yeah.
Luke's got another year. Cole Corey does not.
Yeah.
You still like North DeSoto going forward, but you feel like, man, this was another great chance that they just didn't get to.
Cecilia was in the Dome last year,
Right.
and lost to Opelousas, and Opelousas is still in it too. And I mean that 4A bracket, Division II bracket's pretty salty. Franklin Parish is still in the running too. So, I didn't get to see anything other than the highlights that y'all showed on the Fever afterwards, and it just looked like Cecilia was in control from the first snap. And sometimes that happens, and North DeSoto normally doesn't start from behind, but they did in this game, and it was something that they struggled to get it going, and once they did, it was too much to overcome. And so congrats to the Griffins. They had a great run, and everybody is going to have to prepare to deal with them again next year.
And it's like you said, it's not far from over for those guys. And as long as they got Luke Delafield and Dennis Dunn, you got to love their chances in any game, really.
Yep, and I think they dressed 134 kids against us week 10, so it's not like they're losing that many.
Yeah, for sure. But great season, as you said, for them. And it's tough. I know our viewers probably don't get a good sense of it because we're trying to be excited when we show the highlights one way or the other. But it is, you cover these teams all year. I mean, we're out at North DeSoto practice in August or July almost. And you get attached to a lot of these teams. When you see them lose, it hurts a little bit because you know how much they've put into it. We've seen it firsthand going out to those practices. It's 110 degrees out there. They're doing the best they can. And to see it kind of crash and burn, it just happens so fast.
Yeah. The finality is the hardest part, though, is realizing those seniors realizing they're not going to get to do it again. Yeah. And then, they've grown up playing with those kids for a long time. So you see those Facebook posts, and and you see the parents, putting pictures up of their kids and that last game. You never forget it. I'll never forget my last game. I will never forget the last moment that I was on the field with Eli when we played Rose Pine in the playoffs.
Right.
There's nothing like it, and so it comes fast, and you think you're prepared for it, even as a parent, but you're not.
Right. Well, thankfully, we do still have a handful of teams that hope to end their seasons in the Superdome. I guess we'll start with Ruston. We mentioned Destrehan. They're kind of just doing it all. They took Shreveport, they took Bossier, now they're heading over to Ruston. And I think this will be Destrehan's toughest test. It is our game of the week. There's
no doubt. And Jess Curtis came up here with his Southside team, and they're playing the best football they've played all year.
Right.
And they were absolutely just outmatched, outgunned. A buddy of mine that was the defensive coordinator at Manny for many years with Jess and served as the defensive coordinator last year at Natchitoches Central, Tyler Hassel. He hit me up to go to the ball game with him and a couple other coaches, and I told him we had Thanksgiving, so I couldn't. So I said, send me text updates.
Right.
And he said, Southside just doesn't have the manpower to keep up with them. And Ruston did whatever Ruston wanted to do the whole night.
They did.
And so that's just great coaching. They've got the talent. I even said it last week. They were missing some of those pieces on the defensive side of the ball last year that made them so good. They've reloaded in their prime this week for a big test. And I fully expect that they're going to give Destrehan more than they're ready for.
Yes, and we certainly hope so. And Ruston, it's a team that we've talked about a little bit this year, but they've lost a couple of those district games. You're thinking, I don't know, maybe, but you blink and here we are. They're 1 win away.
Yep, they are. Destrehan really looked good against Airline. Airline's not Ruston though.
Right.
That's going to be a tough one.
Exactly. Now moving on the non-select side. We're still there. We're still alive. We are 1 win away with 2 wins if you count Haynesville and Logansport. Golden Tornado hosting General Trask, and they have been. I said it on the show Friday night. It kind of just feels normal seeing Haynesville do this, and they're running the same way they always have, the same way they've won on those state championships. They look like the team to beat.
They do. They look really good, and General Trask is going to be very athletic, and they're going to be well coached. But Haynesville's just, in that mode right now to where whatever they do, it's working, and they're very hard to beat, and they're even harder to beat at home. I'm just like we've talked about every week, where I really want that matchup.
Yes.
And General Trask is going to throw some things at Haynesville they're going to have to be prepared for because they're very athletic, have a lot of speed, and so that should be a very good game. But I still think Haynesville will be too much for them.
Yes, and then on the other side, of course, we have Logansport. I did want to say one last thing about that. Longtime viewers of the Fever may remember this. It was way back when Tatum was still on the show, and we were co-hosting, and I was standing right over there. And we had I want to say it was maybe Manny that played them in a playoff game years ago.
General Trask?
Yeah.
84 points in that ball game, I believe.
Yeah, and they beat him pretty good, right?
Yep.
Well, my blooper as I was saying the score, I said Manny whatever, and then I said General Trash.
Yeah.
But it was totally I was not trying to be funny.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, and it was totally a misspeak, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to say that.
They weren't trash. They were really good.
Yeah, right. But it was funny. I corrected myself at the end. I was like, Tatum, I just want to throw something out there. I did not mean to call it
I think Jess
trash.
and them scored like 80 points, and General Trask scored like between 40 and 60 points.
It was crazy.
It was a ridiculous score.
That was one of my favorite Friday bloopers. So good to see General Trask back in the area. Logansport, they're going about as south as you can go.
Yeah.
South Plaquemines. 2 seed, obviously the toughest test the Tigers have seen. What do they got to do to keep our dream matchup alive?
Well, I mean, South Plaque is pretty good. You look at the people they've played, pretty tough schedule. They're very, very good. But they haven't played somebody that's going to travel like Logansport.
Right.
Logansport is just the way that they play football is it's one of those deals where they're really good on defense. They're salty in special teams. They do things really well. But, man, offensively, they can control the line of scrimmage. If Kevin wants to line up and run it every play, I can do that.
Right.
But they can play action you too, and they're super athletic. When you see Logansport on the field, they don't look like, a small school football team. They've got D1 athletes over there. And so I think that, it's a tough test. I mean, they have a tougher test than Haynesville does.
For sure.
It is a long trip, but if anybody's going to pull it off, it's definitely the Logansport Tigers.
Well, Logansport's good. My wife shot that game last week, and when she texts me like, "Yeah, I think Logansport's going to win," just pregame, maybe they look pretty salty because
they get off the bus, they look better than most of the teams.
She's no football expert by any means, but she identified it right away, and she has a great time up there. So fingers crossed, Division IV non-select. We see Haynesville, Logansport. That would be the dream. That would make everything worth it.
Yep, it'd make that trip down. On Thursday. I believe that's the first game. I think it's maybe non-select.
Might be the highest Division
I hope
IV
it's it's either the second. I hope it's the second game because that 12 o'clock Thursday game is pretty tough to make. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm hoping it's those two teams. I hope it's Logansport and I hope it's Haynesville.
Yeah, we do too. And I mean, we'll save this for next week if it happens, but we want to talk a little more about that matchup and how much fun it was back in the Dome. Hopefully we're able to do that. One more team. This is going to be a quick one.
Yeah.
Calvary at home again, Catholic New Iberia. We were talking before we walked in. Cavs have played some tough teams this year. This may rank right there with them.
Yeah, Catholic has played a very tough schedule, but so has Calvary. And I would say Calvary's schedule is probably one of the toughest in the state. Opelousas, I have to say, if you look at who they played, their schedule may be the toughest in the state, but Calvary's right there with them. And, to have Oak Grove, have Neville, two
Unions in their district.
Yeah, really tough teams. I mean, Union Parish is in a position to go back to the Dome again.
Right.
And they beat them, at their place. And so they beat a defending state champs in Oak Grove, and beat them like a drum. So Calvary, I don't think they get enough credit. I really don't, because we talk about a lot of other teams. Abram has quietly put up another close to 4,000 yard season and arguably one of the most, if not the most efficient passer in the state. He just doesn't have to do it every single game to win. Right. They have a D1 running back in the backfield. Really, they have two of them. I mean, Julius Moss is,
Air Force.
He's going to Air Force, and he plays defense and offense. And when he's back there, he's a handful to deal with. And I just think that they've kind of flown under the radar because of the some of those early season losses. If they line up and you spot the ball right now, they'd line up and play Franklin Parish. They'd beat Franklin Parish every time they play them.
Yeah.
That night, Franklin caught them the worst possible time for Calvary. And so I just think that what they've accomplished 2 years in a row, and really just a couple of plays away, Abram's sophomore year from being in contention to be in that semifinal. They ran into Dunham, and Dunham went to the Dome that year. So I think that Calvary, they got their toughest test in the playoffs is this week, which it should be that way. But a lot of people see this matchup between Calvary and Catholic as a really what should be in the Dome.
Right.
Even though Dunham sits at the number 1 seed, Dunham hasn't played the level of talent that these two teams have played.
Right.
So I'm fingers are crossed. I booked the hotel room for the Dome.
There we go.
A month ago, hoping and praying that Calvary would make it, because last year it was our family Christmas with my wife's side of the family, and I didn't get to make it, so we watched it on TV. I don't want to do that this year.
No.
I want to see it in person. I want to see Abram. I mean, they were at the office last night. They came up late last night at 6:30 to watch a little film, and then they wanted to go throw in the indoor, and so KT was with them, and then the backup quarterback Hudson Price. And you're talking about guys that are getting ready for the semifinals that are wanting to get extra work.
Yeah.
That's just how they're wired.
Right.
And that's what I love about that program and about those kids. And so, I feel like a parent going into this one. I'm a little nervous. I want it for them bad.
Yeah, and we do too. And it is interesting that you say that. I mean, we're kind of guilty of that as well, in the sense of they've been so good. They lose those early games, and we weren't necessarily down on them, but they get into district play. We know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
That's a game you get a couple highlights and you get out of there because we're not trying to show the 60. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we're at the time of the year where we haven't seen them a lot on the show. But that's not to say they haven't been beating the mess out of everyone they've been playing.
Yeah.
And you look at that offense. You mentioned the weapons that Abram has, and he could just hand it off to two guys that are better than anyone around. One of them going to Texas, obviously, and James, and he has been unreal in this playoff run. They're clicking on all cylinders. I'm blanking on the kid's name now because that's just the way it goes. The Huntington kid.
Oh, Caleb Tucker.
Yeah, he has really slid in nicely to that offense. KT on the other, two KTs now out there, and on the other side, Colby Thomas. Abram drops back, and he's got
weapons all over the field,
and he's got a D1 offensive lineman protecting.
He does. He does. And all of those guys. that offensive line, is so well coached. I think Coach Wilkerson, who used to be the head coach at Natchitoches Central, I think he's the offensive line coach. And if you turn on the film, I mean, those guys, they do such a great job. And I got to see them live a couple times this year, and they're impressive. But more than that, just watching them play, they're very unselfish. You have a lot of talent on the field, but you don't have a lot of, hey, I want the ball. Abram would love to throw it 45 times a game. I mean, I would love to see what his stats would be if he was getting to throw it as much as, Ben or Pop.
But there's no need. Yeah.
You don't have to win ball games, and they're really good on defense. And I know that they probably have some games where they want some plays back defensively, but they've gotten better as the playoffs have gone on. So this will be their toughest test, and Catholic New Iberia is known as being a really good defensive team. Just watching the film on them, they fit the run really well. They like to disguise coverages. Their best athletes are on the back end, of the defense. Their defensive line, they like to two-gap a lot, and so they let those linebackers run free. And when you turn on the film against them, in Catholic played Isidore Newman last week. Isidore Newman got beat 31-0 at home. And you turn the film on, it was they just didn't have an answer offensively to extend drives and get a free runner down the field. They covered that literally. Catholic New Iberia just covered up their skill guys, and then they forced the quarterback Eli Friend into some costly turnovers. That's what they're going to have to do to beat Calvary.
Right.
They're going to have to force the turnovers. And if Abram is on and those guys are doing what they got to do, plus you've got to deal with Caleb and you got to deal with KT. Mm-hmm. We're talking about KT is a hand-time 10,600-meter sprinter.
Right.
He's a legit deep threat. And then you got Julius and you've got James Simon. There's just so many weapons. And not to mention, hey, the quarterback, he can beat you with his legs too. But right now he's on a different level when it comes to execution. I mean, every week, 14 of 16, 15 of 18. Yep. Was he 15 of 18 for 414 yards Friday night? Yeah. I mean, that's insane. His touchdowns had to be 60-plus yards.
Well, I mean, you look at the way they ran their offense. I can't remember off the top of my head who they played last week now. I can't remember anything. But they come down the field, first drive. They move the ball well. Mm-hmm. They settle for a field goal. They had a lot of fans on the other side. They're rocking, momentum great.
Yep.
Wardell gets the ball, 2 plays, touchdown Calvary. 3 and out, 2 plays. Touchdown Calvary. And the Huglon kid as well, he's doing it too. So they have been, at this time of year, they're playing exactly as we thought they would.
Yeah, and I think that there's a part of that staying under the radar that is protected them from a little bit of the expectation of making another trip. They know what they want to do. That's their goal. They want to make that trip back to the Dome. But there is a lot of pressure that comes with winning one and then having to repeat. Yep. And it doesn't seem like there's been that much pressure on them to do that. I know that the coaches that have it in their mind all the time, hey, don't let up. Let's stay the course, stay focused on the task at hand. But at the end of the day, this one right here is a one-off ball game.
Right.
They know it's win and we're in the Dome. Right. And I think that Calvary's going to do they're going to pull out all the stops to make sure that it is exactly what they have been, working towards since the first day of the offseason after they got back and got those rings sized and everything else. They are so ready to make sure that they get to repeat.
Yep. And, a lot of time we've talked about it on this show a few times, a team embodying their coach.
Yeah.
And you talk about not succumbing to that pressure, flying under the radar. That's Coach Guin to a T.
Yeah, it is. And he's done a heck of a job at Calvary. I don't know if there's a coach that's done a better job coaching over the last, 4 or 5 years at the program. And he's right there in the mix every single time. I can tell you the guy at Union Parish, Joe Spatafor, is as good as they come. Jess Curtis, when he was at Manny, is as good as they come. And you look at Calvary, and I mean, year in, year out, they're playing 5A teams. Yep. They're playing the best talent in the state, and they're right there in the conversation at the end of the season. And so be interested to see how this week plays out. I'm hoping all goes to plan because I want to see those jokers in the Dome.
And I'm a little biased. I love me some Coach Guin.
Yep.
Used to interview him back in the days writing for the Houghton Corsair when I was in high school. So he is one of the best. Taught me driver's ed as well. So pretty clean driving record right here. Knock on whatever's wood around here. There we go. There we go. So, yeah. Anyways, okay, so we're going to wrap things up, but I did have one last little thing that I wanted to talk to you about. It was very funny. I don't know if you heard me mention it on the show Friday night, but the fever is the topic of a few memes out there on social media. Now, I didn't know this. We're at Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday. One of my cousins who's still in high school, he was kind of whispering to my uncle, and they were laughing, and I kind of heard him like, should I show him? Should I show him? Like, yeah, show him. So there's an account on Instagram, assuming it's run by high school kids. It's called 318 Barstool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
They got a couple memes, perhaps about things like how much I talk about Pop Houston.
Oh, okay.
Standing in front of the screen during top plays. Funny stuff. It's all been in good fun. But I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to give those kids a shout out. It's funny, and they get some traction on social media. So, and it was funny because I had some people closer to my age or our age being like, wow, that doesn't make you mad, is it? I'm like, think about it like this. If we were this age right now, or their age right now, I'd be doing the exact same crap.
Yeah.
I'd be making memes about people. If I was in high school right now, I'd be making all the memes in the world about my team and other teams and what. This is just the internet.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Just different.
Being memed is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it just means you're relevant.
Yeah. People are watching.
Nobody talks about people that aren't.
Yeah. We love that.
So
yeah. I just wanted to shout out those kids. I thought it was funny. And my cousin.
It's a good thing that it's clean, because I know that some of the Barstool the accounts for different high school programs are.
There was a few that we could not show on air, or we would never show on air. But again, high school kids, it's all in good fun. Love the memes. Keep them coming. No feelings are going to be hurt about some memes. That's awesome. It's all good stuff. So
congratulations, you've made it.
Yeah, that's it. I made it. High school kids are meming us now, so we've hit the big time. Coach, so I guess we'll see you Friday, yeah?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, 10:30 KPXJ, the Friday Football Fever finale. Hopefully we've got 4 celebrations heading into the Superdome. We're going to see you on Friday night. Thanks for hanging out with us on the 3 Fever Point After podcast.